You're listening to
and such a short amount of time to do it in.
a Mamamia podcast.
Hi there and welcome to Cancelled, a podcast from Mamamia about who's in, who's out and who cares. I'm Clare Stephens. I'm an editor and a writer and a twin to that one you just heard. I'm Jessie Stephens. I'm a writer, a podcaster. I was going to say and a burper. I have a burp coming on.
Okay.
He's sitting in my chest.
Okay. Are you going to let it come out?
Nah.
Okay.
Nah, I swallowed it. Okay.
So professional.
This podcast isn't about burps. It's not.
No.
It is about cancellation. And what we do here, Claire, is you come with a cancelled celebrity.
Are they cancelled? Are they not? That's not the question we're here to address. Everybody kind of knows broadly what we're talking about when we say cancelled. We're looking at what happens to a celebrity when the world turns on them, and we tell the story, I tell the story, from beginning to end.
And those celebrities that you look back on years later, you go, I still feel weird. I can't remember. I feel weird. Today's celebrity, I think we feel a bit more than weird. This is the first local one we're doing.
And we have stayed away from local.
I mean, this is our 5th episode.
I know. So we've been doing this podcast for like 10 years. We're staying
away from local. Shut up. We're doing Pete Evans. We're doing Pete Evans today.
It's one of the world's most controversial diets. Paleo focuses on high-protein produce and excludes dairy, sugar, grains and processed food. Celebrity chef Pete Evans is devoted to the paleo way.
If there's one way to make a fortune, you sell a fad diet. And that's exactly what MKR's celebrity cook Pete Evans has done.
Evans has been banned from Facebook for repeatedly posting misinformation and fined $25,000 by the Therapeutic Goods Administration for selling a light machine he claims could treat COVID-19.
And what we want you to do while you're listening to this very special two-parter on Pete Evans is we want you to show us where you are listening.
Are you staring into the sun?
Like he is.
Are you feeding your child bone broth? Don't do that. Don't.
Because if you tag us, we'll send it to the TGA. And then they're going to get really upset.
You're not meant to do that.
So are you on a walk? Are you at the pub? Are you at a real university? We'll get to that. Show us where you're listening, tag at the Twins Thoughts, and then we're going to share it. Because we have a cancelled community. And we need that because I feel like we're going to get a lot of hate.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about that.
Yes.
I mean, he doesn't have Instagram and Facebook anymore, so it's not like he can share a photo of us and be like, go after them, but he probably does it on the dark places.
Exactly.
Where he lives.
All right, Claire, set us up.
So my structure today is really, really simple. And I think that's nice. This is actually going to be a two-parter because Pete just brings so much to the table.
It's like sometimes with a court, if you got multiple murders, they go, we're going to split it into two parts.
Yeah.
Because we can't do it all in part one. And that's what today is about because we need separate charges for separate incidences.
Exactly. So we will be doing it in two parts and we will be doing charges and sentences at the end of both parts. So Pete gets two sets of charges and sentences.
There's two trials.
Yeah, two trials basically. So my structure, Jessie, is super simple. Chapter 1, that's not true. Chapter 2, or point B, that's not true. Part 2.
Okay.
That's it. These could also be interpreted as dude, what the hell?
Okay.
Dude, what the hell kind of goes into these two topics. It's almost like a subtopic.
It's like a theme.
A theme is dude, what the hell? Because sometimes it's not that it's not true. It's that it's like, that's random.
It's a bit like what?
Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. So this is essentially going to be going through all the bullshit that Pete Evans has peddled and then obviously getting to charges and sentences. A quick intro into Pete. His full name is Peter Darrell Evans. I think that should
Bullshit.
be admitted.
You made that up.
No, I swear on my life it's Peter Darrell.
His real name's Darrell.
Yeah. No, like his middle name's Darrell.
That's just so weird. It's not what I expected.
Yeah, well,
I expected Lewis.
Yeah, well, we're in court and that's his official name. In 1996, he moved to Sydney with his brother and they opened Hugo's Bondi. They then subsequently opened Hugo's in Sydney, the one at Potts Point that has like the bar and the restaurant,
been there.
And one in Manly. They won a bunch of awards, including Best Pizza in the World and best pizza in Australia several times. Now, before we proceed...
It was shit pizza. It was shit pizza. I had
It was
it.
bad pizza.
It was too thin.
It was too thin. It just wasn't that great.
It was more a crisper bread.
Yes. And I had it, admittedly, when I had it, was I drunk? Was it 3 a.m.? Yes. But it still wasn't great pizza. I would have remembered if it was the best pizza in the world.
Yes. So that's
stupid.
cancellation numero uno.
I know. That's not part of the case. This is just the intro.
Okay.
Anyway, when Oprah came to visit Australia, she sent her ultimate viewers to a pizza making and cocktail class with Pete Evans at Hugo's. So I just want to say, he's Oprah endorsed. Like, he's got a big platform.
So was Lance.
I
like,
was going to say,
yeah.
why is Oprah always involved with cancelled people? Okay?
Yeah.
Because that's a point. Off the back of that, in 2010, he became a judge on Channel 7's My Kitchen Rules. There are a lot of cooking shows, and I get them mixed up, but My Kitchen Rules was huge. It won Logies. It was the highest rating reality television show in the country in 2015.
My Kitchen Rules, I think you went to people's houses and they cooked you things and there were 3 men judging. Does that?
I don't know. Different to MasterChef. That's the takeaway.
Yep.
Different show, different network. Anywho, he also had his own show in the US for a little bit. So he's got a US audience. But more recently, it's his views on alternative medicine that have caught attention. He says he completed an online course with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Integrative nutrition, and describes himself as a health coach rather than a dietitian. For context, dietitian is a highly recognised and highly respected qualification and field. So it's
That's
weird.
like someone saying, oh, I call myself a life coach, not a psychologist. And it's like, did you study psychology? And they're like, no.
It's like, well, that's why.
Or me saying like, oh, I call myself, a writer, not an epidemiologist. Why would you call yourself an epidemiologist if you never went to university?
Exactly.
That's not a thing. Can I? You know how this podcast, yes, it's about the cancellation of a person, but it's also about the cancellations we find along the way. Online courses. This online course.
Not all online courses.
Not all online courses.
Specifically
but fake
ones in nutrition.
But fake online courses, that's a no from me. And him going on, and I just feel like we can bring a lot back to this moment. A lot of people do a certificate on the internet
In bullshit.
bullshit.
Peddling.
And suddenly they're telling me that I have leaky gut. And I don't know if leaky gut is real or if I just eat too much chocolate. So you don't get to do a certificate that cost you $200. It's not even tangible. It's in your freaking emails or something.
Yeah.
And then diagnose me with leaky gut. Okay? Continue.
You just need to look at your gut. You should look at that. Like, your gut doesn't sound nice. Let's quickly listen to Petey Pie talk about the paleo way.
And I usually teach people how to cook because I'm a chef. That is my craft, that is my tool, that is what I'm qualified to talk about. And a lot of people say, how can you give nutritional advice? You're just a chef. I go, well, isn't that my job? To create food that's going to go into your bodies? And I have a choice. I can choose to cook food that potentially may cause you harm, or I can choose to cook food that we know is going to benefit you. And I choose the latter.
I mean, what's so hard? And we'll get to this. We'll get to it. There's some validity to what he bloody says.
Look, I'm not against vegetables. I have nothing against a vegetable. But it's just I wish he stuck to teaching kids how to make 10 recipes.
Yeah.
Because I feel that he veered off course at points.
I think so too.
I just reckon that nutritionists on this, not all nutritionists, but some who did this specific integrative online course, they get a bit truth-telly.
Yeah.
They get a bit, I'm going to tell you the truth, what other people aren't telling you. And then it's a slippery slope, which is, I think in that you can hear him going down the water slide. Whee! he's just like 10% down the water slide, but he's on his way.
He is. He's on. That's why they call it a slippery slope. It really is, because Pete Evans is on the water slide. So let's get stuck in. That's not true, part 1. I'm also going to label this pre-COVID, because COVID is going to be the real point where we divide this up. And there was a bit of a change. We'll get to it. So in That's Not True Part 1, we are starting with his day on a plate. And look, it is a less of a that's not true and more of a dude what the fuck.
Okay.
Okay? It's 2012. Pete is on My Kitchen Rules and he does a day on a plate in the Sunday Age magazine. He says he starts the day with alkalized water and sprouted millet. He also claimed to eat activated almonds, which are just raw almonds soaked in water. I don't think that is the most controversial thing that he put in his day on a plate, because he also has liver pate at 8:30 a.m. and emu meatballs for dinner.
No.
Emus don't like that.
Do you remember for Mamamia when I wrote my own day on a plate?
Yeah, I do remember that.
In response to the viral days on a plate. And I said, I think that as long as you say infused and activated a lot.
Yeah, infused Pepsi Max activated with the fridge.
Exactly. I was like, infused water with H2O.
Oh, yeah.
And then I said activated with Pete Evans' armpit sweat.
Yeah, that's really
A drizzle,
nice.
just a drizzle on my salad.
Yeah, so the day on a plate was sort of what burst Pete Evans onto the scene, with people being like, oh, so this guy's really rogue with what he eats. And because a lot of chefs, a lot of people in the food space, people are obsessed with seeing what they eat. It's like, this guy knows how to cook everything. He knows how to make things taste good. He maybe even knows how to cook healthy stuff. And then you read that he's having liver pate at 8:30 a.m. and you go, not worth it.
When you look at an emu, I see mostly neck and I wonder where the meat's coming from.
I see feathers.
I see feathers and neck and beak.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe there's 2 centimetres of meat around the hips.
It's a lot of emus.
For not enough meat. And I don't think we should be killing emus for their meatballs.
No, I agree. So that is what kind of burst him onto the scene. And people are like, he's a little bit strange. There are a lot of tweets, a lot of commentary. Then comes his thoughts on fluoride. He doesn't believe in fluoride. All right? I didn't know it was the sort of thing. It's like Santa Claus, fluoride. It's very strange.
I don't believe in doors. I don't believe in toes. Like, you can't just look at a thing that exists and works and be like, I don't believe that light turned on.
No,
it did.
It did. For the record, the reason we have fluoride in our water in Australia, except not in Queensland, is because it prevents cavities. And it has been shown to do no harm over and over again in huge, huge studies. And there are the most interesting, if you're interested in this, go and have a look, because there are amazing studies about places where they don't have this and the levels of cavities in kids and that kind of thing. But this is also the point where we see the trend of Pete Evans saying a crazy thing and then really super busy, smart people having to take time out of their days to explain it and give a statement.
Yeah.
So in 2014, he meets with Fluoride Free, who are a group that campaigns to remove fluoride from water. Is there something else you could be doing? I don't know. The AMA-WA president at the time, Dr. Michael Gannon, said, it's always disappointing when people use their celebrity in a way that is not useful to society. Oh, sir, things have come a long way.
I don't want to say that that's going on his tombstone, but that quote really sums him up.
It really does.
I feel as though there's a lot of science that hasn't been done, that's been like, pause this experiment that will solve childhood cancers. I've got to make a statement about Pete.
Exactly.
And that's not useful to society.
No, it's incredibly distracting. In 2019, there was a controversial Canadian study that found a link between fluoride and a lower IQ in babies. I remember this because I was working at Mamamia. And Evans was like, see, I always said it. He said, this has been known for ages and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Fluoride is a known neurotoxin and it should not be put into our water supply. That's what he said to News Corp. Again, I'd like to state his qualifications. He knows how to cook and he completed an online course. Anywho.
And the online course was in truth-telling.
Yeah, it really was. That Canadian study was then roundly criticised as being super, super limited, and the scientific community was like, hey, so actually there's all types of different studies and what we do is we evaluate them And looking at this study, there was 400 people in it, and it was like self-reported fluoride intake, or it was estimated, and they're like, there's kind of no way to actually
It's a
tell
silly study.
how much fluoride was being ingested by anyone. Meanwhile, there are a whole lot of other studies that involve like 700,000 people in Sweden that shows that there is no link between IQ and fluoride intake. So again, people like Dr. Michael Foley from the Australian Dental Association has to speak to Mamamia and say that there is no association between fluoride levels in water and babies' IQ. And it's like, Mr. Foley, you could be saving people's teeth.
Exactly. I think there is someone currently in the dentist chair with a suction in the back of their throat going, can we finish this? And he's like, pause
Hold
that.
on. I'm on the phone to Mamamia.
Hold on. Pete needs a statement.
He does.
And what I will also say, you know how fluoride, Pete thinks that fluoride makes us all dumb. That would mean that Pete Evans, I'm assuming, doesn't have fluoride, which makes Pete Evans smarter than all of us. Which begs the question why Pete Evans had typos in his Insta captions.
Yes.
Because he always used to make little errors. If fluoride makes us all dumb and you're so smart, why aren't you Albert Einstein?
He would say he is.
Okay.
So the fluoride thing, so that started in 2014. There was the 2019 thing with the study where it came out and kind of further solidified his views. But in 2015, people are like, hold on a second, because Pete starts fully saying that the paleo diet helps shrink tumours, it treats autism, and it stops asthma. He also implies it can minimise the risk or symptoms of mental illness, including dementia and Alzheimer's.
I have a defence.
What?
I have a defence for this, and that is, you know when you really want to promote something and you don't really have enough to say. So with this podcast, I've wanted to promote it. I'll listen to our podcast. It's about Pete Evans. Is that enough? No. It cures mental illness. More people would listen. So what is he guilty of? Promo.
Promo too hard.
Sometimes we promo too hard and we promise things we don't mean, but it's only because he really wanted people to do the paleo thing.
Because he likes it.
He really likes it.
And look, as somebody who also doesn't have a degree in dietetics, I think that's how you say it. Anyway, as a dietitian, I'm sure there are things about the paleo diet that are great. In that you're not eating poison. You're not drinking methylated spirits.
It's not part of the diet as far as we know.
No. So I'm sure that there are some great things about it. And he is passionate about it. But you can be passionate about something without really overstepping the mark in what you're telling them about health.
Not a great diet for emus. It's
No,
not. It's
no.
not. It's not good for them and their lives.
Next, there was the Bubba Yum Yum saga.
Okay. Okay.
He co-authors this book called Bubba Yum Yum, The Paleo Way for New Mums, Babies and Toddlers. It claimed you could use bone broth as a substitute for baby formula. And it was also called extremely deadly for all babies.
Okay. What I love about this is that it's not just deadly for all babies. It's extremely deadly.
Extremely.
Because I didn't know it could be more than deadly.
Yeah.
Furthermore, Bubba Yum Yum. I know we're not here to commit charges yet. That's a stupid name for a book.
It's a stupid name for a book. It's not very well thought out.
And no Bubba is saying yum yum to bone broth.
Oh, Bubba Yum Yum. No.
Not to bone broth.
No. They're like, can I have milk like a normal baby?
Or a grape. Like literally anything that isn't bone broth.
I don't want the broth. So following that controversy, the authors made several changes to the book, but experts noted that the recipes in the new version were still potentially dangerous for babies.
Okay. So, you know how often we talk about the line? Killing babies would be a pretty firm one in the sand.
Yep.
And it does feel as though Pete Evans has passed that.
Yes.
There's not a lot of defence for the killing of babies
No.
and putting their health at risk.
Well, his defence was he accused the media of a witch hunt.
Okay.
And he's done that ever since. But I would like to put a defence for Pete Evans in this case. I think he was embarrassed because he wrote a book called Bubba Yum Yum. And you've written a book. You write a book, you put it out into the world and people say that could kill babies. You go, aww.
I'd be so upset.
You'd be upset. So he's like, oh, witch hunt. Okay, can you make some edits? Because it's very dangerous. How do you apologise for that?
You do have to defend yourself. Like if I said to someone, oh, I've found that drinking methylated spirits is great for baby's sore tummy, and then it turns out that was actually deadly, I'd get defensive because I wouldn't want to admit that I just suggested something potentially deadly for a baby. It's not where you want to be socially.
It's not. His next infringement, let's
Yes.
call it that, sunscreen. So we just go through things, fluoride, babies, sunscreen, day on a plate. Anyway, sunscreen. In July 2016, he's doing a live Facebook Q&A. A lot of bad things happen to Pete Evans when he goes live on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's going to be a recurring theme. He suggested people stop wearing sunscreen. He said people who wore it were covered in poisonous chemicals. Again, this is yet another example of then professionals having to take time out of their busy day and explain skin cancer.
So Dr. Smith is just chopping a melanoma out of a man's head. He's chopping the melanoma and he goes, I'm sorry, scalpels, I'm going to leave it in your head for a minute.
Down. Yep.
Scalpel in your head, you wait there, I got to have a word with Pete.
Yeah.
And he goes, look, still wear sunscreen.
Can you just not?
Can you wear a bit of sunscreen? The medical advice, the same. As yesterday, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we wear sunscreen.
There's a lot of talk, especially at the moment with the COVID stuff, about like the burden of proof. And I just think if the Australian Medical Association, if every doctor, if every researcher, if we have the Cancer Council and we have all these huge organisations that are like, hey guys, so historically a lot of the people living in Australia right now should not be here if you look at our skin. We shouldn't be here. And we're all dying of skin cancer. Let's wear some sunscreen, hey? And then Pete Evans comes out of the woodwork, poisonous.
Don't. Okay, now someone has to make a statement.
Now it's confusing.
Which brings me back to our first cancellation, which was of the course. And I think that the online course has a lot to answer for.
What did it teach him?
He needs to get his money back, Claire. He needs to email them and say, you taught me silly things. And you would not believe how much I've embarrassed myself. I wrote Bubba Yum Yum, Bubba Yum Yum, whatever. I've talked about sunscreen. Your course was silly, it was misleading, and I would like my $500 back.
Please.
Please. From Peter Darrell Evans.
Yes, he should. Also on Facebook, he told one of his followers, just in a comment thread, totally innocuous, that calcium from dairy can remove the calcium from your bones.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. Not true. Okay? And then people have to come out and say, just so you know, that's not true. Please eat dairy. Anyway, next infringement, the magic pill. In 2017, The Magic Pill was released. It's a Netflix doco about the keto diet. I need to state this up front. It's not on Netflix anymore.
I watched it on Netflix years ago.
Because I watched it when it came out. It's been taken down since Pete went down the COVID doesn't exist route.
Okay.
Which we'll get to later. But you can't go watch it now, but you can watch it for free on YouTube. Okay? That's what I did.
Okay.
It was claimed the diet could help treat cancer, autism and asthma, and it had a bunch of case studies showing the benefits of the diet. Let's listen to some audio.
Fat's no good. Fat's no good. Don't want fat in my diet.
We have lived a lie for 50 years.
You know, it's not an accident that people are hooked on all this processed garbage.
Having the federal government get behind the low-fat diet changed vastly the food system.
Suddenly now we're eating a carbohydrate-based diet. You might as well be eating a bowl full of sugar.
The one question I wish every single doctor would ask is, what are you eating?
Maple and brown sugar, heart healthy. You know that can't be right?
What powers the brain far more efficiently is fat.
We need to get back into the kitchen.
So we're going to add more fat to the diet. I mean, good, natural fat.
Coronary artery disease.
I have asthma.
Type 2 diabetes.
She has epilepsy.
Autism.
High cholesterol.
Cancer.
I watched The Magic Pill when it came out, and I like to think that I have a weird interest in health. Like I'd call it health psychology is what I find really interesting. So I seek this stuff out. And I have to say I watched it and there are certain elements of it that are true.
Where it loses me is when it says if you have autism or cancer, it's because you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And it's because you eat shit, you're an idiot, and you don't exercise, and it's always your fault.
Exactly. And, well, the way the documentary is done is so with the music and the American
We've been told a lie for 50 years.
50 years. And there's certain things like the whole we've been sold like the low fat thing. There's some truth to that. Well, I think there's some truth to that. So it's really interesting, but then it just crosses this line. And then there are certain things that you listen to, even in that trailer. There's the line about like undertakers are making a killing, and it's like everyone dies.
Yeah.
Whether you die at 50 or 80.
Okay, this is a thing that I did want to bring up with you, and that's this weird flex where white men don't believe they're going to get sick.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan has it too.
Yep.
Jordan Peterson had it a bit until he went into that coma for a year. but Pete Evans also has it, which is like
I don't get sick, so no one gets sick.
What? Everyone has always gotten sick and died. And they're like, only idiots die. And I'm like, no, everyone dies.
And
that's what he learned. Again, it's what he learned in his course. And I feel as though the course trolled him and has a lot to answer for.
It really does. But back to the magic pill. It features a patient who claimed that cutting sugar from her diet shrunk a cancerous tumour in her breast. And I just want to state that when I say there are certain things in it that are true, I categorically know that is absolute bullcrap. The parts of it that I think are compelling are things about how we've stopped being able to learn to cook and we don't know what's in our food and that. Like I completely agree with that. It doesn't mean I put any of that into practice. There's also a 4-year-old girl with nonverbal autism and epilepsy who adopts a paleo diet and in a matter of weeks can speak.
Again. So if you have a child with autism, like it's your fault because you fed them wrong.
Yeah.
Cliff notes.
Just so you know. Without entirely dismissing the lived experience of these people, experts urged caution against accepting a single case as proof. So the president of the Australian Medical Association, Dr. Michael Gannon...
He just has other things on his list.
He spoke to Mamamia and he said Australians could improve their lives by putting healthier things in their mouths. There's no doubt about that. That's the thing. It's like they make this whole documentary and it's like, yeah, no one's arguing that we're eating well. We don't think that we're eating well. We're eating badly and it's probably making us sick.
We know that. But don't blame the one who got breast cancer.
Exactly. But it's like, no, that's not. The cancer and autism are separate. Like, it's just so frustrating. And then Dr. Gannon also said, but this idea that dietary manipulation can change the course of autism spectrum disorder or change the course of a cancer is not just ludicrous, it's hurtful to people who are affected by these and are worried about themselves and their loved ones. Because if you take it to its logical conclusion that somebody shrunk their tumour by eating properly, does that mean that everyone who's ever had cancer, it's actually because they did something wrong?
Yes.
They did something wrong. They ate they weren't having
was
liver,
module
pate.
3 in the online course. Cancer is your fault. That's what it was called.
It's so screwed up. And Dr. Michael Gannon also said the documentary could be harmful. He said there was some early evidence in animals that the diet could help with certain conditions, but it was yet to be fully evaluated.
You know what we haven't talked about is keto crotch.
I was going to ask you about that.
Okay, we did a story on Mamamia once. Apparently, keto can give you smelly vag. And that isn't once acknowledged in the documentary. And if it can give you a smelly vag, and this isn't me, 101 online nutrition course. I Googled it. I did my own research. And what it said was that a high-fat diet can give you smelly vag.
Okay.
Similar to BV, which is bacterial vaginosis. And my question is, if it gives you smelly vag, maybe it gives you smelly willy.
So you're saying that Pete Evans has a smelly willy?
Yes.
You're putting that on into the court?
I'm tendering it.
Okay. All right. You can tender that as evidence. You can tender what you like as evidence.
Okay.
The jury will decide. The jury's us.
Smelly willy.
Dr. Gannon also said a long-term ketogenic diet can be associated with unhealthy weight loss, kidney stones, and in children can lead to nutritional deficiencies and immune system
vagina.
issues. Then Evans responded by accusing the AMA of being unduly influenced by external forces.
Okay. Who does he think is protecting cancer? This is the thing. He's like, I just want to cure cancer. And it's like, fucking same. You know who else wants to cure cancer?
Doctors.
Doctors. The AMA. Can you imagine if cancer was cured? If you were an oncologist, you'd have so many holidays.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, there's no cancering work to do because it's gone now.
Yes.
So now I'm just going to go live on the Maldives. Pete thinks he's the only one who wants to fix cancer.
It's very bizarre.
It would save us a lot of money and grief.
It really would. I don't know. So that's the bizarre thing. He seems to think he's the only one who cares about these issues and has a solution, which apparently is the keto diet. It's like, have you heard of chemotherapy?
Radiation.
That does a great job.
Surgery, get the tumour out.
Yeah. It's just so frustrating. His last indictment for part 1 of That's Not True is staring into the sun. So later that same year where the magic pill was released, Evans shared an Instagram post encouraging people to stare into the sun. The caption,
with their eyes open.
Yes. The caption was, every day I love to immerse myself in an experience within the cleansing ocean water, as well as a brief gaze into the radiant light of the early rising or late setting sun. Guess what happened next?
He got skin cancer of the eyeball.
No.
Oh.
Doctors had to respond, warning that looking at the sun could damage the eyes. Can you imagine doctors, like, it's like things are so obvious. They're like, where do I even find the document that said this? I don't know. I thought in the 1900s, we established don't look straight at the sun.
So what you're saying is that looking into the sun, which is like 15,000 degrees Celsius, directly, when it hurts and stings and then you can't see properly for an hour afterwards, that's bad.
It's bad. Don't do it.
Because then you walk inside, you walk into a chair because you can't see properly. And that's your body's way of saying,
and doctors
don't.
are like, do I have to explain? Do I have to say don't stare at the sun because then, you know, you get the black spots? Well, that could mean that you then run into something and then you go to hospital and I have to deal with you. You know, it doesn't have to deal with you, Pete Evans. 2020 is the year everything changed. In May, Evans's contract with Channel 7 was terminated after poor ratings from My Kitchen Rules Season 11, and the Therapeutic Goods Administration fined him $25,000 for promoting a device he claimed could cure COVID.
Again, you cannot criticise this man's business acumen. He looked at COVID and he went,
I have a cure.
I have a cure. Do you? No, but I'm going to charge you for it. What an idea. If you, like, he looked at the market and he went, there's a problem. I'm going to solve it with a machine.
I'm not going to solve it. I'm going to sell the solution. Does the solution work? No. I'll be fined for it. At this point, so it was at this point that he went completely and utterly rogue. And we'll get to that in part 2. But here we're doing charges and sentences.
Okay, I'll go
pre-COVID. Go. What's your charge? What's your sentence?
You know how sometimes, as I was saying before, this is about the people we cancel along the way.
Yeah. You can talk about the bloody course again.
I'd like to charge you short course. And I'd like to sentence a short course with not anymore. Not existing, not teaching. Go offline.
Okay.
Forever.
All right.
Don't come into the real world. Delete your course. Okay? So that's my sentence.
All right.
For the course. Another charge. The fluoride thing.
Mm-hmm.
Being an idiot.
Okay.
Is his charge. Here is my sentence. I want him to be right about the fluoride.
Mm-hmm.
And because he gives up fluoride and eats heaps of emu eggs or whatever, he gets really smart. Like smarter than all of us. Only to realise that he is an idiot. And so he looks back and I want him to live with that.
Yeah.
I want him to live.
How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
Because now he's smart, but he was an idiot.
Yeah.
Third one.
Okay.
I charge him with endangering babies.
Oh.
With bone broth.
Yes.
And you know what I sentence him to?
What?
Prison. Why is this man not in prison?
He's got a lot of fines from the TGA. A lot of fines.
It's not enough.
I don't know. Can you put him in prison? I don't know. That's for a court. Oh, wait. We're the court.
I just think that putting him in prison would also be really good because from his cell he couldn't stare at the sun anymore, so he wouldn't walk around with black spots.
He also could not eat paleo. And in prison he'd realise that there's a food problem because you know how people say the food's really bad in prison?
Yes.
He should revamp the prison food system. You know, that's what he should do with his chef skills is look at really disenfranchised communities and cook for them.
Yeah, great idea. What are your charges and sentences?
Okay. I would like to charge him with several counts. I don't know how many. Several counts of arrogance. Why do you think you know better than everyone else?
Because of his online course.
The sentence is to actually do your own research.
What?
I want him to gather data from a really, really big sample size. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of energy. Say 1 million people. I want him to go door to door.
On like fluoride.
Yes.
The fluoride thing.
So I want him to start, he can start with his next door neighbours. He prints out surveys, but no, first he's got to do an ethics application. He's got to do this the right way.
And he's got to set up an Excel spreadsheet that says fluoride study.
Fluoride study. But the interesting thing is when he does his own research, he's going to run into problems because he is going to go, all right, I believe this, so what I'm going to do is I am going to do a PhD. I'm going to go to the local university. I'm going to say, I am Peter Darrell Evans. I would like to do a PhD in fluoride and it being bad.
And he'll get straight into the PhD because he did an online course, which is a pathway. It's not.
But the supervisor's going to say, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't think that's a good research project because there's already heaps of evidence that debunks that, but he's going to argue for it.
Yeah,
and then he's going to have to do an ethics application. Anyone who's done an ethics application knows it's the reason not to do research.
Yeah.
It's so horrific. And then he's going to have to write the survey. And that's going to have to go through several edits and really be looked at in the ethics application. People will say, well, people don't want to give this detail. And he's going to say, there's a lot of loopholes here. Yeah, that's what research is. It's very frustrating. And then I want him to do it on his own. I want him to knock door to door, hand people the survey, have to retrieve the survey. There's 1 million surveys. He has to enter it manually and then do the data and then find there is no relationship. That's going to suck.
I love that.
Yeah. His other charge.
Did you have 2 charges?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the last charge.
This is the last one.
For part 1.
Being annoying to experts. And wasting their time, energy and resources.
Okay.
The sentence is, I want him to live without modern medicine or the research of experts. So I want him to wake up tomorrow. Yeah. So he wakes up tomorrow and he goes, I've got an earache. Yeah. Oh. And then he goes, it's really bad. It's getting worse. Why is it getting so much worse? And then he goes, I might go to the doctor. No, you can't. You know why? Because the doctors are busy. Because they've spent so much time giving bloody statements because you've been like really annoying the medical profession. And so he doesn't go and then he gets a weird ear condition that he lives with. That's permanent. And just every little niggle.
Yeah. I love that. Go solve it with an emu egg.
Yeah, go on.
I love that.
Doesn't your diet solve it?
And we've got to be clear, Claire. These are only the charges and the sentences for part 1, and there is more to come.
There's so much more to come. Look, in That's Not True Part 2 post-COVID, we're going to get to the fact that a global pandemic really messed with Petey Pie.
Yeah.
Really messed with him because he was like, global pandemic, I'm a health expert, and he weighed in on everything and he got so many fines. So many fines. And we're also going to be tendering into evidence a lot of memes.
Yes.
A lot of memes, a lot of Instagram stories. And we're also going to come to the lovely circular place where his Facebook and Instagram get shut down.
Yes.
And that happened.
Now he exists on the dark place.
So that's next week on Cancelled. If you are listening to, I was going to say if you are listening to Cancelled, what else are you doing? We would like if you could maybe take a photo of yourself listening to Cancelled and
take a photo of yourself or take a photo of where you are.
Yeah. Take a photo of where you are listening to Cancelled. You can tag the twins' thoughts.
That's what you, yeah. So take a photo of where you are listening to this podcast and tag at the twins_thoughts, and then we're going to share so that we can see how many people are listening to our podcast.
Yeah, and in what places.
Yes, because our podcast cues cancer.
Yeah. It doesn't. Please don't. TGA, we're joking.
The TGA always looks at the footnotes.
Yeah.
And if it says we're joking, then they'll leave us alone. Okay, thank you for listening. We will speak to you next week about PewDiePie Part Dos.
Bye.
Bye.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.